الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In this month of Shawwal, the 3rd of Shawwal, the 3rd Hijrah, a very important battle took place in Islam, the Battle of Uhud. It was fought at the valley located in front of Mount Uhud. Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu says that our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Inna Uhudan jabalun yuhibbuna wa nuhibbuhu. Subhanallah. Verily the mountain of Uhud loves us and we love it. What a profound statement, subhanallah. The defeat at Badr was such an embarrassment and a humiliation which the Quraysh pride could not leave unavenged. And the revenge was therefore the catchword all over Makkah. In the battle of Badr, his father, brother and uncle were all killed, and her anger at the Muslims were immense. She used to wail and shriek for days and wandered the desert and poured sand on her face and clothes until her husband assured her that the death of her family will be avenged. She promised a reward for the one who could bring back to her the heart of Sayyidina Hamza radiallahu anhu, who was responsible for her father and brother's death. Abu Sufyan nursed the most grudge against the Muslims because he had lost heavy economic losses. Quraysh then started afresh preparations to launch an overall war against the Muslims in order to restore their blemished prestige and their wounded pride. They were determined to crush the commonwealth of Islam, and once and for all they wanted to do that. It was also decided that the profits of the escaped caravan headed by Abu Sufyan, which amounted to 1,000 camels and 50,000 dinars, should be devoted for providing equipment to the army. The noble Quran alluded to this decision of theirs in the following verse: بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ لِيَصُدُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Verily those who disbelieve spend their wealth to hinder people from the path of Allah. فَسَيُنْفِقُونَهَا ثُمَّ تَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسْرَةً ثُمَّ يُغْلَبُونَ. So will they continue to spend it, but in the end it will become a regret for them. Then they will be overcome. Subhanallah. They also devised other ways of recruitment, including hiring of poets to entice the tribes into fighting Muslims. A contingent of 3,000 warriors, of whom 700 were armored soldiers and 200 were well-mounted cavalry, with 3,000 camels and 15 women marched towards Medina. The general leader was Abu Sufyan bin Harb. The cavalry was under the leadership of Khalid bin al-Walid and Ikramah bin Abi Jahl, and Bani Abd al-Dar was entrusted with the flag. Nabi alayhi salam held a military consultation assembly to exchange views about the situation. The Prophet alayhi salam suggested that his companions should not go out of Medina, that they should encamp themselves within the city. He was of the opinion that if the enemy should be left in the open to exhaust themselves, and thus the Muslim would not risk a battle. But if they thought of attacking Medina, the Muslim men would be ready to fight them at the entrances of the lanes, and the women would help them from over the house rooftops. Abdullah bin Umayr was the head of the Munafiqs, the hypocrites, who attended this meeting as chief of Al-Khazraj, and he supported Nabi alayhi salam's plan. Now look at the munafiq. We have him today in our community as well. Ya Allah. Allah destroy him.
Amen.
His agreement was not based on the righteousness of the plan, but rather on personal benefit. He didn't want to fight. He secretly aimed at being far away from the fight. You know how they're saying, you go, I'm right behind you. You know. However, it was Allah's will that he should be exposed and he would be disgraced in public. Some of the companions who had missed the Battle of Badr suggested that the Prophet should go out of Medina and urged him to accept their viewpoint. Ya Allah, when the Prophet speaks, you don't argue. That is the rule. But listen, one of them said, Ya Rasulullah, for a long time we have been looking forward to this day. And we have implored Allah to make such a day draw near. Thanks to Allah, it is time to fight. So let us go out and fight our enemies, lest they think that we have lost heart and do not dare to fight them. We can understand the enthusiasm of the Sahaba Kiram and the sincerity we don't doubt, obviously. So Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, the paternal uncle of our Nabi alayhi salam, who was the heroic at the Battle of Badr, was ahead of those who were enthusiastic and urged him to go out and meet the disbelievers. He said to the Prophet ﷺ, Wallahi, who has sent the book down unto you, I will not taste food until I fight them with my sword outside Makkah. So it was decided that the enemy should be resisted outside the city at Uhud. So ascending the mimbar at the Friday Jumuah congregational prayer, the Nabi alayhi salam urged the people in his khutbah to fight courageously. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. O you who believe, be patient and excel in patience, and remain steadfast and be careful of your duty to Allah so that you may be successful. Then he commanded his men to make ready for the battle. Most of them rejoiced greatly. He led the afternoon, the Dhuhr prayer, with crowds of people. Then he entered his house accompanied by his two friends, Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu. They helped him dress and wear his amama. He armed himself and he wore two armors, one over the other. And he wore his sword and he went out to meet the people. People were now waiting to meet him impatiently. Sa'ad bin Mu'adh and Usayd bin Hudayr blamed people for pressing and insisting on the Prophet ﷺ that he had to go out. They said, you have forced Rasulullah ﷺ to fight the enemy outside Medina. Therefore they were determined to leave the whole matter to the Prophet ﷺ and blame themselves for what they have already done. When the Prophet ﷺ came up, they said, Ya Rasulullah ﷺ, we should have not disagreed with you. So you are free to do what you desire. If you prefer to stay inside Medina, we will stay with you. Upon this Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it does not become a prophet, a nabi, that once he had put on his armor, he should take it off until Allah has decided between him and the enemy. Subhanallah. The Prophet ﷺ divided his battalion, his army, into three different battalions. The army consisted of 1,000 fighters, 100 of them armored, another 50 horsemen, and the departure was announced. And the army moved northwards. They passed the night between Uhud and Medina. As night fell upon them, they performed Jam Salah, Maghrib and Isha. The rebellion, here is the story of the Munafiq, Abdullah bin Ubay, the hypocrite. He rebelled against the Muslims and left with his 300 fighters. He said, we do not know why we shall have to kill ourselves. Typical Munafiq, subhanallah. The real purpose of this rebellion and the withdrawal and the detachment and taking his supporters away. And this delicate and very awkward position and time was to produce confusion, bewilderment, confusion of the mind, and disorder in the Muslim army, and breaking the high morale of the believers. And consequently, the death of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his faithful companions and Islam as a whole. This was the munafiq's aim. But as you know, it was not meant to be. Then, according to their minds, the way would then be clear for them to reclaim presidency which he had lost on the advent of Islam in Madinatul Munawwara. إِذْ هَمَّتْ طَائِفَتَانِ مِنْكُمْ أَنْ تَفْشَلَا وَاللَّهُ وَلِيُّهُمَا. When the two parties from among you were about to lose their heart, but Allah was their supporter and their protector. وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And Allah should the believers put their trust. Ya Allah. Allah speaks about these munafiqs. وَلْيَعْلَمَ الَّذِينَ نَافَقُوا وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ. And that he might test the hypocrites, it was said to them, تَعَالَوْا قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَوْ ادْفَعُوا. Come, fight in the way of Allah, or at least defend yourselves. قَالُوا لَوْ نَعْلَمُ قِتَالًا لَاتَّبَعْنَاكُمْ. They said, had we known that fighting will take place, we would have certainly followed you. Hey, what a munafiq. هُمْ لِلْكُفْرِ يَوْمَئِذٍ أَقْرَبُ مِنْهُمْ لِلْإِيمَانِ. They were that day never more closer to kufr or disbelief than they faith in the iman. يَقُولُونَ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. They say with their mouths what is not in their hearts. Munafiq. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا يَكْتُمُونَ. And Allah has full knowledge of what they conceal. The remainder of the army, the Muslim Islamic army, eventually went on to Uhud. After the rebellion and the withdrawal of the munafiqs, hypocrites, the number of soldiers was reduced to 700 of them. Subhanallah. And Badr it was 330. Now, double that, 700. And as you know, it's not to do about the numbers. كَمْ مِنْ فِئَةٍ قَلِيلَةٍ غَلَبَتْ فِئَةً كَثِيرَةً بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. How many times have we seen Allah in the Quran? How many times have we not seen that a few in number has overcome large numbers with the permission of Allah? May Allah grant our understanding that. Ya Allah. The Nabi al-Islam, with the remainder of the fighters, moved now towards the enemy. The defense plans now. Look at the great strategies of our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Messenger of Allah mobilized his army. He arranged them into two roads to prepare them for the fight. He selected 50 skillful archers that formed a squad and made them under the command of Abdullah bin Zubayr. And he issued orders to them to stay where they were and clarify the mission of the squad in the words he directed to them. He said to the leader, alayhi salam, drive off the horses from us by means of arrows should they attack us from behind. Whether we win the battle or lose it, you stand steadily in your position and mind that we are not attacked from your side. Look at the instruction that was given. Nabi alayhi salam added, if you see us snatched into pieces by birds, do not leave this position of yours till I send for you. And if you see that we have defeated the enemy and trodden on them, do not desert your position till I send for you. Isn't that clear enough? Subhanallah. It was a beautifully wise and carefully laid plan which revealed the genius of military leadership that our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam possessed. Of course, we mustn't. Yeah, the effort of the Quraysh woman, they participated in the battle led by the wife of Abu Sufyan. We have to understand another dimension. Hind bin Utbah. They wandered among the rows of the kuffar, the idolaters. They tapped on their tambourines. They encouraged men to fight and cursed them, and they whooped up the emotions of the heroes and the lancers and the swordsmen and the brave fighters. This is the job of the women. You know, at one time they addressed the standard bearers. Oh, Bani Abd ad-Dar, oh home of defenders, strike with your sharp sword. And at another time they would wage people's zeal by these to sing. If you fight bravely, if you fight bravely, we will embrace and unfold mats to welcome you. Look at that. Eh? But if you flee from the battlefield, we leave you, desert you, and love you no more. Look at the women of the Quraysh. Soon the fight of the two parties grew fierce everywhere on the battlefield. The strain of the fight was centered around the carriers of the flag. I want to draw your attention especially to the assassination of Sayyidina Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, Asadullah, the lion of Allah. Wahshi bin Harb was told, if you kill Hamza, the uncle of Muhammad, you must kill him stealthily, and then you shall be free. So Wahshi obviously was waiting. His only job was just to assassinate the uncle of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. The archers, the squad whom Nabi alayhi salam located at the mountain, had the upper hand all the time when the war was going on. Khalid bin al-Walid had 3 times attacked the left wing of the Muslim army with the aim of crushing it and to create confusion and disorder in the ranks. But because of Nabi alayhi salam's instructions, the archers stood firm. But while the small army of Muslims were on the way, it appeared through Allah's mercy and help to a clear victory again over the Makkans. The majority of the archers on the mountainside committed a fatal mistake that turned the whole situation upside down and constituted a source of heavy loss amongst the Muslims. Ya Allah. 40 of the archers deserted their posts because they were enticed by the roar of victory. Despite Nabi alayhi salam told them, if there's victory, you stay until I send for you. But their nafs came in the way. Shaitan came in the way. Know your enemy, know my enemy. Right? So, and of course, also the greed was for the spoils of war. You know what? That's the other side of it. There was only 9 of them under Abdullah, the leader, decided to abide by the Prophet ﷺ's order. Then, at that time, the shrewd Khalid bin Walid seized this golden opportunity where he saw this chink in the defense now. So he took this golden opportunity to turn this swiftly around to the rear of the Muslim army and surrounded them, killing Ibn Zubayr and his group. Subhanallah. The Bosnians returned once again to counterattack the Muslims. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam was then among a small group of fighters. But his companions, the genius of Nabi alayhi salam again, he raised his voice calling out to his companions and he said, Ya Abdullah, Ya Ibadallah. But it came at the cost of the Prophet alayhi salam being injured. And the Quran beautifully describes the outcome of these events. لَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ إِذْ تَحْسُونَهُمْ بِإِذْنِهِ. Allah verily made good His promise unto you when you routed them by His leave. حَتَّى إِذَا فَشِلْتُمْ وَتَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Until the moment when your courage failed you and you disagreed about the order. وَعَصَيْتُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا أَرَاكُمْ مَا تُحِبُّونَ. And you disobeyed after He has shown you that for which you long. تُحِبُّونَ مِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرِيدُ الدُّنْيَا وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرِيدُ الْآخِرَةَ. Some of you desire the world and some of you desire the hereafter. ثُمَّ صَرَفَكُمْ عَنْهُمْ لِيَبْتَلِيَكُمْ وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ. Therefore He made you run away from them, that He might test you. Yet now He has forgiven you, subhanallah. Wallahu dhu fadlin ala al-mu'mineen. Allah is Lord of kindness to the believers. Despite all that, Allah is Ghafurur Rahim. These are the lessons we learned. إِذْ تُسْعِدُونَ وَلَا تَلْوُونَ عَلَى أَحَدٍ. Remember when you fled and ran away and climbed the mountain without looking aside at anyone? وَالرَّسُولُ يَدْعُوكُمْ فِي أُخْرَاكُمْ. While the Nabi Messenger was calling you from behind. فَأَثَابَكُمْ غَمًّا بِغَمٍّ لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ. So Allah repaid you with distress upon distress, so you would not grieve for that which had escaped you. In other words, the victory of the spoils of war. وَلَا مَا أَصَابَكُمْ. Or for that which had fallen upon you in the form of injury and death. وَاللَّهُ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah is fully acquainted with what you're doing. After the enemy left, Nabi alayhi salam made his way around the battlefield to see the extent of the Muslim losses. Many of the most faithful Muslims were killed. Some of the idolaters, men and women, they mutilated the bodies of the Muslims. They cut off the ears, they cut off the nose, the genitals of the martyrs. They even cut open their bellies. This is the horrific side of the war. Hind bin Utbah ripped open the liver of Hamza radiallahu anhu and chewed it and spat it out. She even made the ears and noses of Muslims into anklets and necklaces. This is the hatred that they had for the Muslims. Nabi alayhi salam found the body of his beloved uncle who had been killed by Wahshi. At this site, Nabi alayhi salam said, there will never be a moment as sad for me as this. After the Prophet ﷺ had prayed over the many of the dead, he said, I tell you that no one has been wounded in Allah's cause, but Allah will remember him on the day of Qiyamah and will raise him from the dead. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. And never ever think of those who have been killed in the cause of Allah as dead. بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Rather they are alive with the Lord, receiving provisions. Subhanallah. فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. They are rejoicing in what Allah has bestowed upon them of His bounty. وَيَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَلْحَقُوا بِهِمْ مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ. And they receive good tidings about those to be martyred after them who have not joined them yet. Subhanallah, look at that. Allah khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. That there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve. يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِنِعْمَةٍ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَفَضْلٍ. They will receive good tidings of favor from Allah, and they will receive ni'mah, bounty. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And that Allah doesn't allow the reward of the believers to be lost. And وَمَنْ يُرِدْ ثَوَابَ الدُّنْيَا نُؤْتِهِ مِنْهَا. And whoever desires the reward of this world, we will give him thereof. وَمَنْ يُرِدْ ثَوَابَ الْآخِرَةِ نُؤْتِهِ مِنْهَا. And whoever desires the reward of the hereafter, we will give him. وَسَدَدِ الشَّاكِرِينَ. And we will reward those that are grateful. May Allah make us of the grateful. So the lessons we learn, victory is not guaranteed for Muslims just because you are Muslim. Winning the impossible war in Badr made some people think that they will be helped by Allah. You know, this false sense of Sunday confidence. And that victory is a favor guaranteed by Allah. This was the mindset, you see. But of course, life doesn't work that way. Though it is Allah's right to grant it, we have to set our own way for victory. We have to earn it. We have to earn that victory. Likewise, the glory of Islam in the future may be guaranteed, but we have to work as such so that it can be realized. Don't think just because we are Muslims we can be favored. Right? Well, the Anbiya and the Awliya is lying in Palestine. Look what they are going through. Are they being favored? No. Number two, it teaches you how to forbear the tragedies and losses. In the face of defeat and tragedy and losses, you must establish the reason between cause and effect. Do not be overly emotional, but rather learn from it to avoid future failure. And notice what you did right and wrong, so you can always use it in the future occasions. And the third point we learn is, whenever we suffer defeat, we are to blame ourselves. Take account of ourselves and repent of our sins. Realize our own mistakes and promise yourself that you will act in a different and better way so that you can get better and different results next time. Defeat is a good time to let go of our ego, because results do not discriminate. But the other important aspect to remember is obedience to the Prophet. Obedience to the Prophet is such a significant matter for this belief as exemplified in this part of Islamic history. Disobedience to the Prophet carried a negative consequence, as the archers in Uhud themselves experienced. They did not listen. Along with disobedience is greed. It's also an enemy of victory. Victory requires steadfastness. But disobedience and greed will distract you from being steadfast. If you want to succeed in fighting for this religion, fight your disobedience and fight your greed. Fight your nafs. And also stay kind to the people. Rasulullah said, and it's mentioned in the Quran, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. And by the mercy of Allah, you dealt with them gently. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. Had you been severe and harsh-hearted, they would have broken away from you. فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. So pass over their faults and ask Allah's forgiveness for them and consult them in their affair. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And then when you have taken a decision, put your trust in Allah. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. Allah loves those who put their trust in Allah. So this leniency, subhanAllah. You know, when in the conquest of Makkah, Hind accepted Islam. Same with Wahsh. Right? Imagine you and I seeing the murder of our parents by somebody. Allah forbid. But just to give an example, I want to put you in a feeling, emotional situation. Right? What would you and I do? We'd probably cut his ear first, we'd cut another ear off, and another finger off. Because this is our human nafs reaction. Right? Our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam forgave them. In forgiving, you are actually forgiving yourself. You know, if you sit with hatred to somebody, that person that you hate, he couldn't get two hoots about you, but you are sitting, oh, I hate you, he did this to me, he did that to me, he did this to me, dear, I'm going to do this to him. You are making tasbih of this guy, and you couldn't even see two hoots. What did Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? I forgive you. And he carried on. But he told them, please don't come close to me, because you remind me what you did to my uncle. He's human. He's bashar in that aspect, isn't it so? So he's not going to have a party and have a cup of coffee with them. He forgave them and left them. He says, just leave, go. And this is what we learn in the lessons that we are learning. Defeat and victory is not permanent. The wheels will keep on turning. If you keep them moving, after the battle of Uhud, they worked hard for the victory at the battle of Khandaq, the battle of the Trench. That's another talk. They came back stronger and made your defeat a useful lesson. Take advantage of your mistakes and let it be the foundation of your advantages for the future, inshallah. This is what we have to take the lessons of Uhud, maybe imbibe that in our lives, and we go forward, ya Allah. Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.